What is going on, you guys? It's your boy, the best that never was here, and we are back with episode 96 of the video game therapy series. Second day in a row it's a good sign at least to get back into a cadence of these things, as it is not a trivial or normal human-like endeavor to talk to yourself for an hour a day, but I think it is cathartic and good for me on some level. That being said, my first topic is probably not one you came here for, but it was one that I was thinking about today. If it's clear enough through all my musings, I am very much an anti-advertising person. I don't like ads of any kind, really. I don't think, and I'll get into more of why, or really what my argument is against that later. But I guess if you know me, you know I don't like ads, and my ideal day consists of 0 ads of any kind. I don't need to be, and I realize maybe ads aren't for me, or they're for other people, or there's, what about the economics of it? There's all kinds of these other arguments to advertisements, but I'm very much an anti, my opinion, of course, is very much anti-ads. And the way I look at this and this again is, I'm not saying it's not flawed logic on some level, but is that there's not really an economic argument against advertising. Like if I was a free market, pure libertarian type, I wouldn't have there's no rational financial justification for why advertising is not a good thing. On both ends, on either end, either the consumer or the product or the business or whatever. I think my argument against advertising is specifically a moral one. And in the same way, and I say I hate to bring this in, but it always kind of illustrates my point on some level. But there also wasn't a economic argument against slavery. Like on paper, the numbers, it was all good. It was everyone wins all around. Of course, obviously, except for the slaves here. But I'd argue that it's to a lesser extent. But then we're ultimately going against human flourishing with advertisers. I mean, tell me how many ads that you've seen that promote eating vegetables, or getting healthy exercise without drinking a sugar drink, or getting 8 hours of sleep. That isn't selling you a mattress. Or reading a book, or just going outside, or having healthy relationships, or doing whatever, or just to stop watching TV would be all things that promote human flourishing on some level. The ads it's just gambling. It's gambling, it's pornography and any of its manifestations. It's political rage bait, which is again, just some other form of pornography really, as I would categorize it. But there's nothing good being advertised. Like I'd say the only one that is ever anything decent is like stop vaping. But even at that point, it's just like, it's not even to do anything good. It's just to avoid something bad. And those are not like profit-driven advertisements. Those advertisements come about from, I guess, people advocating against that. And it's one instance, I guess, something not half bad coming out of a free market system. But ultimately, pretty much every other ad is all selling you garbage, getting you addicted to a gambling website or something like that. There's nothing at all that would promote any idea or any conception of human flourishing. But again, the economics of it, there's no way for me to argue against the economics of advertising on either end. It's good for business. It's good for, consumers buy more if they see more ads. But it's ultimately nothing that is good for them, really. Again, like, when's the last time you've seen a vegetable commercial, for God's sakes? Or if it isn't chocolate-covered vegetables or something that should be a crime, to not only to sell, but just to advertise. So again, my argument against advertising is not and really cannot be a financial one. It's purely a moral one, in the same sense that, again, I hate that I'm comparing it to the economics of slavery, but ultimately that made sense for everybody too. And then the argument that I hear is like, well, what about, how are these businesses supposed to stay alive if they can't advertise to people? That's like saying, well, how are the farms going to make their food if there's no slaves to work the farms? It's like, then these businesses won't exist. And the farms that can't handle not enslaving people to make their food will have to just be worked themselves. Like, I'm sorry that some of these businesses shouldn't exist, but objectively, a gambling business that makes all of its money through suckering people into advertisers shouldn't exist, or advertisements should not exist. I'm sorry. That's too bad. I know it's bad for GDP. I know the line's not up and to the right, but it literally just shouldn't exist. I think on a moral level, it shouldn't. And that's really my argument against it. Because I love when they're just like, oh, well, the businesses aren't going to exist. They need that to stay afloat. It's like, I know. Exactly. That is my point, is maybe they shouldn't be around. Maybe if your entire business model is getting people addicted to something, whether that be sugar or vaping or whatever, maybe it should just literally just not exist. Sorry, too bad. So the argument against it is purely a moral one. And it's like, because I mean, the same way I look at it is like in terms of like consent. It's like you could ask somebody like, oh, will you have sex with me, sir? And it's like, no, I'm not. And then it's like, okay, thank you. And then, how right is it really for you to just keep asking until they like, that's kind of what it seems like to me. So for example, I'm watching a sports game, which again, I don't look at the TV often because I can't handle it. It just drives me nuts. I literally just will start, like, I'll want to smash the TV if I spend too long looking at the TV and just watching ads. But they're showing me like Zaxby's taco commercials, which, by the way, if you're not familiar with Zaxby's, it's basically just Texas toast, chicken tenders and fries. Nothing that should be eaten by a human. It belongs at a 12-year-old's birthday party, really. But now they're selling tacos, these chicken tacos. And I've seen, again, the identical same advertisement that comes on this MLB network, I don't know, probably 12 times. How many times do I have to say no? I'm never going to eat I'm never going to go to Zaxby's and order a taco. I'm not going to go to Zaxby's, period. But much less would I ever go to eat how many times do I have to say no before it just is out of my face? It's like if somebody asks to have sex with me and I say no, how many more times do I have to say no to them before they quit asking me? And that's ultimately the way because it's not like so on some level you consent to being advertised to by watching the television. That's why I just don't do it. And it's not, and then I just will refuse to. And I guess in my ideal world, this wouldn't really exist because people wouldn't watch the TV or they wouldn't even see those ads, or they would be equally as infuriated as me that they're being influenced or being, again, just they're being harassed. Really, I wouldn't call it influence. They're literally just being harassed for their wallet or their stomach or their dick or whatever it is that's being advertised to them. And I just don't think it's a morally important thing. So I kind of refuse to acknowledge any amount of like the economics aren't worth it to me. In the same way that the economics of slavery aren't worth it to me. Again, on paper, I know it like is good for the business and good for the economy or whatever, but it's morally abhorrent to the slave. So I'm not going to allow it. I refuse to participate in it. And advertising, I view the same way. I just am not going to, I don't want to subject people to that. And it isn't on the same level. It's more distributed. It's more like instead of, a few slaves being tortured to death, it's like everyone's getting a paper cut every day. But even that, it's not an argument about the magnitude of the problems, right? It's not like it's not as bad as Big Pharma or something like that. But advertising as a whole is, I don't know what percentage of the economy it makes up, but it's artificial demand. You're influencing people to want to buy something that, like, they probably didn't know existed, and not only do they not know that it existed, they certainly don't need it. So if I don't know something existed 5 seconds ago, what are the odds that I like badly need this, right? It's like it's not often it's like, I'm suffering from a weird random illness that no one's ever heard of, and then all of a sudden, perfectly at this time, an advertisement comes on that gives me the one solution that would take me out of agony. Like, no, it's like you don't really need anything at all. You don't need any of this crap. There's literally nothing being advertised that you need. It's all like stuff that would be cool or is trying to sell you on an experience. Like, you don't need to go to a vacation, on a cruise ship or something. It's like they're trying to convince you that you want that. And that's it. That's, again, it's just kind of like, do you want to have sex with me? No, I don't. So stop fucking asking me. How many times do I have to say no? And it's like, it's not that I just don't want it. I don't want it from you or want it right now. There's like, I don't have to, give you reasons all the time. Every time you ask me to say no, if I say no and I fucking mean it, then stop asking me. It's again, at some point it crosses a line from just like making sure they don't want it to like abuse. I mean, I don't know. Abuse is probably not a word I'd like to use in that scenario, but it's not, the influence is all artificial. It's not real. They're not, addressing any real problems. I'd say 99% of products are not anything. Not only are those solutions not real, but the problems aren't real. Like what is the problem statement of gambling? People are not finding creative enough ways to throw away their money. People's time is too indispensable or too dispensable. I mean, that they have to find other ways to lose. There's no problem that gambling is solving, like as an abstraction. And not only that, but the solution of an app that will ping you every 5 minutes to put down more of your paycheck into a sports game that you don't have any. I mean, it's like, how is this? This should be legal on every. It should never have existed in the first place. I know it's too bad that it does exist, and I have to suck it up, and that's just the way the world works. But again, it's just my opinion. I don't think it should exist. So my argument against advertising is not one of the economics, because that's the only place that really has any merit in terms of why it's. I don't think you can advertise it. You're selling anything that people need or want, because you're not. You're not selling people. I mean, the only thing I see that is even half decent, I guess, beyond just like those anti-vaping ones, is like an education. But a lot of times you're selling people like crappy master's degrees that they don't need, that are going to be useless, in like fake fields and something like that. Oh, get your master's certification. Pay us $2,000. We'll give you a certification that says that you're an AI expert, despite never opening a terminal or something like that. It's like, that's not that. They're just selling a fake product, and that's not a real thing. It's not real education. That's like this fake idea of an education. I don't care if you got one black guy to get hired off this dumb product. That's not a real thing. It's bullshit. It's literally bullshit. So it's not that's selling education or advertising education, is meaningless. And I guess, I don't know, it's not that schools know that and don't advertise. But the schools that do advertise their degree programs probably mean that it's useless. I think, the elite institutions don't, not that they have any merit either, honestly. I'm kind of soured on the entirety of higher education as a whole, but you don't see people, you don't see Princeton advertising, oh, come to our, come study undergraduate course here. It's like, no, everyone knows what that is. They know that, again, it's, I guess on some level is a useful investment. They don't need to be convinced that they need to buy a college degree from Princeton or something like that. Like that, a lot of times they know that that's a fucking place that, it doesn't need to be advertised really. It's the one that's like, oh, come to DeVry University and get your, not even a degree, get a certification in being a data scientist or something like that. And it's all bullshit. It's not real education. It's crap. And of course it's always like, they show, some guy who's a struggling single father, and then all of a sudden he gets his, certification in data science, and he's making $500,000 a year, and he can afford a boat or something. It's like, that's not happened. That's happened 0 times, and even the guy in the commercial is probably just a struggling actor who probably got one of these worthless fucking master's degrees, and then now is doing an acting for your fake university that sells fake education to a bunch of dumb people that you're convincing that they need, but they don't. So it's just the influence of ads in general, and the fact that they're trying to convince you to do something that you don't want. And I guess that's also just kind of my shtick. I don't like being told what to do. Generally, if someone's just like, oh, tie your shoes, I'm like, okay, that seems benign. But again, I want to ask, why do you want me to tie my shoes so bad? It's not even that it's like, that is kind of a dumb example, because that's again a very, very benign thing, just to tie your shoes. And I'm sure this person's looking after my well-being, but generally I first want to ask, well, why is this person telling me what to do? Do they have my best? Who is this person? Do they have my best interest at heart? Is it my mom? Right? I'm probably going to trust what she says, because she's probably looking out for me. So she tells me to tie my shoe. I'm not going to be like, well, why? It's like, okay, no, she's making sure I'm alive. But just these random people. Why would you trust the person selling you an ad to not like want something from you? They don't care about you. They don't even know your name. All to you, you're a statistic. You're barely even a statistic. You're an aggregate statistic. You're one trillionth of their data security or data science pipeline that they use to sell people ads. They don't care. They're not looking out for your best interests. So why would you listen to them at face value? If anything, you're probably better off doing the opposite of what they say. So if they say, oh, come buy this chicken taco from Zaxby's, your life will be closer to flourishing if you don't do that. If you do the opposite of what they say. Everything that's being advertised, you just don't do. The same reason I won't, there's some companies and things that I will just refuse to purchase from, even if I need it. Like I won't get Liberty Mutual insurance. Why? Because I've seen too many ads for Liberty Mutual, and I refuse. I don't care if it's $40 cheaper than the alternative. Not doing it, simply out of principle. And I realize it's annoying, and it's like, what a silly hill to die on, but I don't have any leverage anyway, so I might as well pull the few dumb strings that I have, even though it's meaningless. I don't care. I have nothing else to lose or gain from any of this. So at least I'm doing is just sticking up my middle finger to anyone that spends a gajillion dollars on advertising and comes up with dumb ways to try and sell me crap that I don't need. So that's, I mean, it's just out of principle. And again, I know it's not making a difference. I know they don't care. Of course, they don't care that you know, some obscure, stupid Minecraft YouTuber is boycotting them because of their ads. Of course, they don't care. But there's nothing else I can do other than rant about how much I hate it and then not buy their insurance, even if it is the cheapest. So I don't know. I'm just very much. I'm philosophically against ads. It's a moral quandary. It is not an economic argument. I don't have an economic argument against ads. I don't. I can't. It makes too much sense for the economy. And I realize that me saying that ads should all be illegal is saying that the economy should take a huge blow. But frankly, it should. It's like it's the way I look at this is if you think about it from like, I guess kind of on a generational perspective, it's like, boomers kind of had, I would say they didn't all I wouldn't say they didn't earn their money. And I'm not going to say that, but I would say they earned, I don't know, what, 60% of their money, right? A certain percentage of the economy is fake and is propped up by nothing. It's smoke. It's not a real, there's no real innovation that's driving up value in any sense. It's fake. It's fake value. So in the same way, I'm not saying that no boomer worked for their money and doesn't deserve any money. Everyone should be poor if you're over 60. But you didn't earn all of it. I'd say some of it you just kind of made up and gave yourself. You kind of printed it and then gave it to yourself. So again, I don't know what the clip is. Maybe it's, maybe it's 40%, maybe it's 80%. I don't think it's any higher than 80%. And I don't really think it's any lower than 20. But again, I don't know enough about the numbers itself to make a more specific argument. But in general, like you didn't earn all the money you have, so to speak. You took a lot of it from, the next generation. And now you're just kind of living off it, which is good for you. Fine, do what you want. I realize that you didn't have a choice in it either. You didn't choose to purposely devalue yourself. It was just the hand you were dealt. So you did what you did. But like, I think it's a little vacuous to be like, well, these people are fucking lazy. I work for all my shit. Yeah, you work for all of it, but you got a little boost. You probably got a little bit more than you deserved, unfortunately. Or I guess fortunately for you, but unfortunately for, I guess, the world now, because it's, now we have to pay the piper. And it's not you that does it. It's me. So I don't really feel that bad for you at all, financially. So I'm okay. I can live below my means, and banning advertising, if that tanked the economy and the S&P 500 went to zero, great. I think people who have a bunch of money and investments anyway, probably don't need that money much regardless. I think if you ask like the poorest people, what would happen if the stock, like they don't have money in stocks. And I realize there's a cascading effect, but ultimately like, how much more fucked could their life get anyway? But then, so it's not like they're like losing a bunch of their assets or, mortgages or second. They don't have a house. They drive a car that doesn't have no license plate and they get pulled over every week. They don't give a fuck if the S&P 500 goes down 10 points. They don't even know what that is. They're barely literate. So it's not like they give a fuck. So I kind of have the same mentality. It's like, I know that me saying that advertising shouldn't exist kind of makes that argument and isn't really one that is good for the economy or would win any political, I'm not going to be elected because of that framework, but fuck it. I don't care. I think it's morally wrong. I'm not, I think it's kind of I wouldn't say it's modern day slavery, but there are parallels that, make it feel on a similar moral level, not an equitable moral level, but it's in the same direction in terms of fucking people over. Right. And of course it's not directly, turning people into machines, but in a lot of ways, it is treating them not as humans. The same way that slavery was an inhuman thing, I view advertising as inhuman. There's no humanity in it. And not only that, there's no creativity really left in it. It'd be one thing if like advertising was kind of this weird offshoot of theater of some kind, or there's some like, deep artistic element in it that, gives it a lot of some other value beyond just like trying to get people to buy something. But if you've seen an ad, it's fucking brainless. There's nothing. I mean, it's appealing to the lowest common denominator. It's like the dumbest person that's ever going to turn on the TV. How do we get money out of them? Like anyone that knows anything is going to scoff at this and roll their eyes, or at the very least just tune out and look at something else. But what's the dumbest person? How can we get them to download DraftKings or Bet365 or whatever the fuck gambling website that they're peddling? It's abhorrent. It should not be allowed. It should be banned. I guess that and LinkedIn would be the other thing I would ban if I was the dictator, I suppose, of the world. I would get rid of some things, and those would be high on my list of priorities. But anyway, enough on ads. I'll talk about something else here because this is not the first time I've taken a giant shit on advertising, but here I'm just making a more bold and a holistic claim against why it is morally wrong. Economically right, sure, I don't care. Fuck the economy. Morally wrong. It shouldn't exist. Let the farms who can't survive without slaves, let them die. Too bad. Go out there and, hoe the field yourself. You shouldn't have to depend on others, or in advertising's case, the stupidity of others to give away their money to you for a fake product that's not real. It'd be one thing if they're selling like quality. They're selling plastic. Everything's just plastic. They're not selling nothing good being sold anymore. It's all crap. Not everything lasts like 6 months or a week. I mean, for God's sakes, nothing is permanent. There's no such thing as 50-year jeans anymore. The pair of jeans is plastic. It's all fake shit. It lasts nowhere. I don't even own jeans, but I have friends that own jeans. So I guess that jeans is probably the wrong example to use. But anyway, I'll move on to something else here. So I guess this is another interesting way of looking at things. I guess interesting is very subjective, but I guess solving other people's problems is a lot of times easier than solving your own. So like there's that saying, like those who can't do teach, which again, I don't necessarily agree with because I do some forms of teaching on my own. I would say that doesn't mean I'm invalidating myself as to be able to do it. But I think a lot of times solving someone else's problems does is it removes the why. Like the why of doing it now is their problem, and your problem is simply the what and the how. Maybe sometimes not even how. Sometimes it's just like the what. And I guess so. An example with that would be like, let's say you have a friend that wants to, I don't know, let's pick a dumb example, wants to be an actor or something, but they know that they need to like reach out to people and book appointments and do all and they need to like execute the steps of like building a portfolio of some kind and like trying, putting effort towards those things. And if it's your problem and you want to be the one to be an actor, a lot of times it's difficult because you're struggling. You're like, why do I want to be an actor? Do I really want this? Or it's like, I know it's difficult or whatever, but if you're someone who's been like called upon to help, so if you're the spouse of this aspiring actor, you can then, the why of it is not your problem anymore. Your problem is very simply like, what and how do we do this? Like, what do you need to do right now? I'm just going to do it. So it's not struggling. I guess an easier example would be like building a table. It's like, if, your significant other wants you to build a table, you're not concerned with like, even maybe like, why you want the table, or like what it is about the table that you need, or is it important that it is a table? But, even what kind of table, it's like, okay, there's a table. The reason why I'm doing this is because they want it. And it's very simple for me. I don't have to think through. There's no more whying I have to do. It's literally just, I need to do it. I need to go get the table, put it together. Like that part is not the difficult part conceptually. I think, that's why sometimes it'd be interesting to think of like it could be a romantic or a platonic relationship of some kind, but it's solely when you're solely focused on like their aspirations, so to speak. So like even from a career or professional or whatever kind of standpoint you want to look at it, if your goal is just to do what they want, you don't have to worry about why they want this or like, question it beyond that. You're just focused on the I guess the computational parts of executing that plan, which I think is easier than necessarily like the philosophical reason. So, there's everything I do, I seem to have some philosophical hang up with it. So it creates a lot of friction and tension with me doing stuff, even like making these dumb videos. Like it's, there's like, well, am I in the right mood? Am I going to be able to talk for an hour? It's like, what if the mic cuts out and I lose the whole thing? There's like, what am I going to do in the Minecraft world? I have to like, am I going to mine gravel the whole time or something? There's a lot of like these like other things I have to consider about why and what. But then if it was like not me, if it was just, I had to like get the computer ready for someone else to do this, it'd be like, I know why I'm doing this is because what they want, and I'm going to do what they want because, I care about them or some whatever vague conception that it's going to, of why you're doing this for them. But doing it for them is what makes it easy. It's easy because it's not you, it's them. So it's not saying that we should then restructure our economy. This be this like, reciprocal, service economy, or just helping other people out all the time. But it is interesting to view I guess tasks as easier if they're done for other people, because you don't have to. There is no why. With why is because they want it. I don't question why they want to be an actor or why they want to put a table together. I'm just concerned with putting the table together and how the mechanics of that. It's not very. It's not always a very. That's pretty a simple conceptual idea. Like, putting a table together. It's well known. It's well documented. I could look it up. I could figure it out. It's not that hard. But like, why would you put a table together? Could have bajillions of different reasons or rationales or any of that. Whereas just putting it together is a mechanical process. It's not very complicated. So I don't know. I just had a thought about that of like why I think there is kind of this symbiotic relationship and why relationships are such a central part of the human experience. Because I do think that it truly is possible to be more productive working as a duo or as a set of people or a group of people, because ultimately you can abstract the why just onto other people. You're not worried about why they want this done or what they're doing. You're doing it for them. And that way you can just focus on the mechanics of it, which I think I'm not saying we're better at. Like, a lot of machines can do mechanical stuff, but I think it allows us to be more productive if we're not philosophically wrestling with stuff. And at least that's just my view on it, because I have more philosophical friction, I would say, than other people when it comes to doing stuff. Just because I want to know why or what I'm doing or what's the end goal with this. And some of it isn't. There doesn't need to be any of that. Like I find with like going to the gym or eating right or cleaning my room or doing whatever. Not that it really needs cleaning. I usually keep it clean. It stays clean. That's my philosophy on it. But regardless, I don't have to think through why I'm doing any of those things. Those seems just like very obvious, trivial goods. But when it comes to like me making like, I don't know, like me producing a video of some kind, I do find it sometimes I'm more stuck with that, because then I have to think, why am I doing this? No one's making me do this. I don't have to do this. I'm not doing this for anyone else. Should I be doing this at all? Like, is there, and there's just a lot more of that than, there wouldn't be otherwise if I'm doing it for someone else. So it's just kind of, it's interesting to think that there's, I guess, significant value in doing things for other people and having people do other things for you. So I guess it only becomes a problem if you're just doing things for other people and then you're like, well, what about my aspirations and what I want to do? I'm just kind of slaving away what other people want. I guess not that it needs to be like 50-50, but ultimately it should be a give and take thing where it's like, if I help this person become an actor, they're helping me do whatever. And like, whatever it is that your goals are, whatever it is that the person is helping you do. So I think part of there's one way of looking at like a relationship in that sense, whether it's platonic or romantic or, an atomic family kind of thing, is just that, how good or how equal is that reciprocity, or how capable are the two partners at doing things for each other. So it's independent of how they function alone. Because again, like, there are things that I have huge philosophical hangups that I would love to be like, I want to do this, but I can't. I'm struggling with like the environment of doing it or some kind of execution step. And I could abstract that to someone else, and then they could vice versa, bear the philosophical burden while I would just bear the mechanical execution of it, which I think is I guess simpler in theory, of course. It's obviously not always simpler, absolutely, but I guess in theory of doing it, it is simpler. So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting idea to think through. Yeah, let's see. I guess this is, I guess we'll see how unfortunate of a take this is. I have been accused of, and I say accused there very, very tongue in cheek or laughably. I've been accused of like being smart or being hardworking in some case, and I say accused because I don't view it favorably. I think it's almost insulting the way that it is being framed. It's not because they truly think I am smart or I am hardworking or not lazy or whatever. Again, whatever those terms mean, I kind of hate the word hardworking, but I especially hate like intelligence or being smart, because I think that almost means so little in what it means to be smart. Is that is that like a big vocabulary? Is that an ability to solve problems? And that's so vague. What the fuck does that mean, really? How to solve problems? What problems? Like interpersonal problems, math problems. Like, if I judged smartness purely on the ability to solve math problems, I'd have a very skewed and or just faulty sense of who was smart and who wasn't. But I think that's not what I want to talk about. The thing that pisses me off is when I am accused of being smart because of like let's just like I'm reading a book with like a, I don't know, not that big of a book, like 500 words, 500, and they're like, wow, you must be really smart. You're reading that book. It's like opening the book and staring at the pages is not the intelligent part. Like anybody could do that. You could train a horse to, to operate a hand to open and look at the pages. That's not the impressive part, is reading a big book or selecting a book with a lot of pages. A baby could do that. Like the any part of that would be smart would be comprehending the book. What does the book mean? Maybe analyzing the book, or even just like reading it aloud, even have some kind of intelligence that you're able to read whatever the fuck is being said, or even like understanding or summarizing the book would all be things that may be considered intelligent. But like owning the book and looking at it doesn't mean anything. Like why is that? What do you mean I'm smart because I have a big book in my hand? That means fucking nothing. Like that's not the intelligent part of it. So it's like the example I thought of was like, it's like somebody is praising like the length of a play for how like it's like, oh my god, that Shakespeare wrote a play that's 500 pages long. It's like, I know, but that's not the impressive part, that it's a long play. The impressive part is it's good writing. It's a good play. It could be 5 pages. It could be 5 words. Like if it was a good play, it's a good play. The length of it has nothing to do. Like you're appreciating the wrong dimension of this entirely. And that's why it's frustrating that like I'm accused of anything when it's like you're appreciating the wrong aspect of it. Like that's not what the impressive part is, So it's like, I don't know. It's like, again, equating like the amount of money you make with like how important your job is. Like these are disjointed things. And like, sure, maybe on average, you're more likely to run into someone who's not a complete moron if they're reading a book. But like to praise somebody for the simple act of owning a big book and looking at it, you're an idiot, because that shouldn't be the impressive part of the book, right? It's like that does nothing. What if I'm just looking at it? What if I haven't read what if I'm holding the book upside down and you just don't even like, it could be, again, something that isn't impressive. So you can't just assume that I know what the fuck I'm reading, or if that I do comprehend it. Like some people just own books just to look at them. Like it kills me that like, you have a Zoom call with some like esteemed professor and they have thousands and thousands and thousands of books on their bookshelves. Like, sure, maybe they've read all those, maybe they've like thought about them, whatever. But like ultimately, I don't think that the more books you have doesn't mean you're smarter. I think it's stupid. Like my ideal scenario is where I hit a certain threshold or number of books that I can just reread indefinitely. And like I think you get more out of reading a book twice than you do out of reading 2 different books. Ultimately, because most books, I guess, especially books now, are crap. So I'm not saying you should never be buying new books. I'm criminal at buying. I buy new books all the time. But ultimately, my goal is to not have to buy any more books, because I have enough wisdom on a small library that I can just reread the books I have. And there's no need for me to continue to read more books by crappy. Like I've read, I'd say more than half the books that I've read, and these are all been books that I've vetted and I've thought about, and I've gone through the effort of like, okay, I'm, consciously spending money on this book because I think it is a good book. More than half of them have been duds, like bad books. I would not, don't buy them. They're not good books. I sound like Trump. Not good, frankly. Very bad books. No, but they're bad books, and I would not recommend reading them. And I was fooled, I suppose. I was fooled by the marketing and the advertising into buying the book, and I regret it, because it's not a good book. You shouldn't read it. So, but there are probably, like I'd say like 5 books out of the, I don't know how many I've read at this point, that I have reread, and I will reread again, and I'll reread again, and I'll get more value. And it's kind of the same like wisdom that's coming through the book that I need, or even the same like, even like a book on, I don't know, physics or something like that. It's not like, I think just rereading that to give you a really good grasp. If it's a good book on physics and it's well written and it's good, then you don't need to buy 5 more books on physics. Like having 10 books on physics might mean you know even less than someone who just has 1 book that they've reread 10 times on physics. So it's not, I don't know. It's like appreciating the wrong dimension of what should be impressive. Like, again, owning the book itself should not be the impressive part. What is this fucking idiot doing? Okay, I need to not die. I don't know why my health is so low. Anyway, either way, like appreciating the wrong dimension of something is something that does frustrate me. So I say when I'm accused of being intelligent, it is frustrating to me, because it's like one thing to praise me for like work that I've done or something that I've said, or something that I've written that you think is intelligent, like that's one thing. But just appreciating like the number of books somebody has for how smart they are is insulting, and is not, is frankly the opposite of what you're intending to do with that compliment. And I realize it's just people being nice, but it's the thoughtlessness that bothers me. And it's not that they don't, people aren't thinking about that. I guess they don't. I guess that's kind of just a weird quirk of me. Is I think about what I say before I say it, but that also just seems bad. What do you mean? I think I'm the bad person because I think about what I say before I say it. That should be the other way around. I know you're trying to be nice, but you're not. You're being the opposite of nice by saying that. And it's because you didn't think about it. You just said it. So shut up and only say something if you're going to be intentional about it. Of course, I'm saying that as somebody that has 90 some God hours of talking about literally nothing. But the good news is I'm not actively subjecting anybody else to this, at least out of their will. It's not like I'm paying for advertising spots and going on national television. Oh, everyone watch this, listen to this idiot. It's like, no, if you were watching this video, you very intentionally clicked on this. You know what you're getting into. You know what you're listening to. I'm not fooling you. I'm not bamboozling you into anything. I purposely almost do like anti-clickbait with the titles so that like the algorithm kind of just crushes the video and buries it. So there's not, I'm not putting Elon Musk has sex with Mr. Beast or something. I'm not doing any of that I'm not gaming you for your attention. Only because I would hate to subject you to, to this. Let's see what else is on my list here. I guess there's another quirk of me in my productivity woes is disliking what I just call kind of vague time boxed activity. And what I mean by this is like, I know the Pomodoro timers are very popular in the productivity circles. So that just means setting a timer for a certain amount of time and having these like breaks built in. And I've tried, this has been probably a decade at this point of trying to implement productivity measures using time boxing, but it just consistently seems to backfire for several reasons. One is that like once I get into something and I'm like really kind of in the flow state or locked in or whatever you want to say, or I'm done tweaking or however you want to frame the focus part of it, is that the timer then just almost disrupts the productivity. Like once I'm in it, I don't want the timer. You've ruined now potentially in some unknown amount of productive time because this timer just blared off and ruined my focus. For me to take a break, it's like that I don't work that way. But at the same time, it's like I almost know that, and so I don't like setting timers, because I know that if either the timer's just going to go and I'm not going to start something, or I won't get into the state to begin with, or it'll break me out of it. And I've tried again. I have note cards going back, I think almost a decade at this point, of the days kind of meticulously timed out. And I've tried different variations where sometimes I'll box off like literally every 30 minutes. I'll go like, okay, I'm waking up at 8:30, and then from 8:45, like I'll have it that meticulously written down, and I can't execute it. Every day I fail those. And so I've tried even like time boxing it less, where I just like, okay, there's no plan for tomorrow. My goal is to just get these things done. So I have to lift, go to lunch with this person, and do something else, write this code. Okay. But there's no times with any of those. And I've ironically had more success with that approach, like this laissez-faire, like I don't care when you do it, just do it kind of thing, to time boxing the activity. But again, it's difficult to find a balance between like getting the most out of your time. I think the reason that people and myself included are quick to want to time box every 30 minutes was because then you can plan for getting the most out of the time, which again feels a little like mechanistic to try and get every inch out of the day that is possible. And I'm certainly guilty of trying to treat myself like a robot, and do what the note card says, and no matter what, and don't question it. But then I find myself just getting more defiant as time goes on, to the point where I have trouble getting stuff done because I'm like, well, fuck this note card. It's telling me what to do. It's like, I wrote the note card. What am I doing? Why am I mad at myself for having just like a plan on what to do today? It's like, I don't, and I certainly don't, I don't want to venerate productivity, because I think it is kind of a toxic attitude to get into, of this like kind of hustle grind set-esque thing. And it's funny to me that there's like, I guess lifestyle tips and lifestyle advice that then is like it's always wrapped around to like, oh, then you have time to build your business. It's like, shut the fuck up. Okay. Not everybody is an entrepreneur and needs all these businesses and needs to like grind for their family and get the, it's like, first of all, how much money do you really need to get things going, right? Like if you don't feel comfortable with like a very modest income and you can't make things work, if you just are somehow running out of money buying jeans or Levi's, whatever these idiots are buying all the time, that's like a consumption-based problem. Like the problem is on the expenditure side of the accounting sheet. Like the income is not the issue, and no amount of grinding or time boxing is going to make up for that. But at the same time, it's like also just like not everyone's built to, I think there's only a certain number, like there's certain, I guess, thresholds of productivity that's even possible within a human. Like how many hours a day could you truly focus on some kind of activity? Like how many, it's like there's a limit to the amount you can exercise in a day. And no one's going to argue that there's only a certain amount of productive exercising hours before you're literally going backwards. Like you're going to burn away muscle if you keep exercising. But people seem to don't apply that to like, I guess, sitting at a desk making PowerPoint presentations, which is why it just cracks me up that people are like, oh, I worked 110 hours this week. It's like, what do you mean you worked 110 hours this week? Doing what? What could you possibly have done that was even mildly productive for 110 hours? Were you literally, like you would have, your hands would literally break, I think, if you were typing for 110 hours straight. Like your hands would cramp and they wouldn't work anymore. Unless you were hooked up to an IV of bananas, Pedialyte, and water and salt, you would not be able, your fingers would fall off. Like they would break. You would have, severe cramps. Your hands would be like, you have to ice them. Like, I mean, unless that's what you did. You literally sat at you were at your computer with your PowerPoint presentation open. And then when you were sleeping for the, I guess, whatever measly hours is left after 100 hours of work or 110 hours of work, you were icing your hands and on like in a hospital bed, like trying. But like at that point, again, it's like, it's not possible for you to be hands on the keyboard working for that long. So it's like, how much did you really work then? Did you count, eating avocado toast with an investor? Is that work? It's like, okay, well, that's not really, what would call productive work. That's not like you weren't really doing anything so then at that point, what does 110 hours of work mean? It's like you were just kind of like vaguely on the clock for that long. Like you played golf, during the work hours and you logged that as billable hours. What do you mean you worked 110 hours? It's like, what do you call work? So that's what I want to know. It's like you assume it's just like, you kind of immediately put it into the time box of like, oh, you're like an Amazon worker who's like hauling boxes for 110 hours. Like you can't. Your body will give out. At a certain point, also with knowledge workers too, it's like you can't code for 80 hours a week. Like I don't think there's enough Ritalin in, unless you were stocking up Ritalin for 9 months just to have 1 week of an absolute methed out session writing spaghetti code. You physically can't code. You can't type for 80 hours a week. So much less like critically think and come up with, clean, smart solutions to stuff. You're just wasting your time. So it's not possible to work much longer than that. And I even think, and I don't mean to like bring the amount of, possible human work hours to like a hilariously low level, but I even think 40 hours is kind of a long time to be dedicating to like, it depends on what it is, obviously. But like 40 hours a week is a lot. That's a significant chunk of time to be like fingers on the keyboard working. And I realize the arguments like, well, like we're not paying you to like the whole time. Like we assume there's going to be some unproductive hours. Like we assume you're going to be messing around and like, eating lunch and counting it or like taking a break or something. Or so then how much really? How much do you literally expect like fingers on keyboard typing, locked in, zoned work? Like 40 hours is not feasible, I think, for that kind of work. So then was it 20? So then, okay, that might be more reasonable in a week. It's just, I'm not really anything, again, even 40, I think is a kind of a ridiculous amount of hours to be, quote unquote, like deep working. I don't think humans have that much deep work in their system. I guess short of like drug induced, comatose-esque states. But again, those are artificial. Those aren't, it's not what they assume when they say like a productive worker who's going to be a healthy, productive worker, at least. I suppose that could be dire circumstances or something like that. I guess if you're like waterboarding their family in exchange for, spaghetti Python code, I suppose you can probably get that kind of productivity out of somebody. But generally people don't have incentives that powerful. It's more just like the new Yeezy shoes or whatever people are buying. I don't know what people buy anymore and I don't know how they run out of money. I saw somebody that said that their net worth was $2 million and they were terrified of losing their job. It's like, $2 million US and you're terrified of losing your job. What the fuck? You have serious mental problems at that point. Like, what are you talking about? What are you buying all the time? How much money do you spend on? I mean, where is your money going? Frankly, I don't get it. One of my friends had he obviously wasn't making that much, but he was by many people's standards would be a very enviable amount of money. And I was just always like appalled that he was like, I don't have any money. I'm like, where is the money going? Well, I guess part of what happens at these, larger Fortune 500 companies that have these strange compensation packages, that a lot of the money gets tied up in these like supposed benefits packages where you're like, oh, we'll match your like dental plan, we'll match your plan for like health related lotions that you can spend $200 a year on. It's like, and so after what is said and done, of like 40 different ones of these, like, for your benefit, will match, your thing, you end up losing like tens of thousands of dollars of disposable income into, what are these like kind of vague investments of sorts. It's like, you're going to give away even $200 out of your paycheck for like a yearly, match on lotion. It's like, just opt out of that. Why do you need, I know it's like free money because you get $400 for lotion instead of $200, but like, are you really spending $200 on lotion? So just wouldn't you rather have $200 of unmarked, like not earmarked money than for like double that, but you have to buy lotion? Like, and then again, how many of those things can you really opt into before you're just, that's where all your money's going, you idiot. Like, you don't need a dental match. Like, how much for $4,000, and you have to spend $8,000 on dental work. And it's like, are you really doing that every year? Every year you're spending $8,000 on your teeth? Like, on what? I don't. I mean, you're getting a full veneer replacement every year. I don't get why you need that. Why you need to take advantage of that perk? Like, just don't do it. But I know it's hard for, I guess, the super rationalist to leave money on the table, no matter the cause. Like, it doesn't matter whether the money is kind of is for a stupid cause. They don't want to lose out on $4,000, so they can't, even if they have to, buy toothpaste with it or something. So I don't know. It's silly to me that people like they always seems to be, I'm not making enough money. That's a problem. I need more money. It's like, is that really the problem, or is it you who doesn't know how to like not spend or not buy dumb stuff? I suppose that's somebody that I buy books, and I guess if I go broke buying books, once every 2 months or something, or I think I buy books a little bit more often than that, but I guess I read them at a fast enough pace too that I think it's acceptable. But I guess if I go broke buying books, then I deserve to die and be homeless. So, it is what it is. Whatever. Let's see what else I have on here. I guess since I mentioned this at the beginning, I'll just I guess I bring it back up. There is I guess a more prevalent idea now of just intergenerational hatred. And I don't think it's totally unfounded either. Like I mentioned before, how I think the boomers, again, as a generation, I'm speaking of people, I don't know, maybe 60 and older. I say they didn't deserve all their money. Again, it's not to say that they deserve nothing and they're all like this purely hedonistic, selfish generation who's like, but I think it's fair that we see a lot more generational hatred, just because it's easy to kind of say, well, I would have been more egalitarian, thinking, knowing that I wasn't worth that much money, and knowing that I was getting a huge, premium on my work that was really just stealing money from the next generation. But again, I don't really blame boomers for, the premium that they were getting, I guess, as their money, in the sense that they only earned, a certain percentage of it. That being said, I also don't necessarily, I don't really agree with him when they say that like my generation is lazy or stupid, or I'd say Zoomers generally are like conventionally lazy, but unconventionally productive, in the sense where I've seen, like, I think a Zoomer would not blink at spending, 30 hours making like a dumbass meme or something like that, which, was dedication that you wouldn't find that even for a full-time employee, but they're doing it for nothing because it's for the meme or whatever. Or they'll ironically make something that is like, objectively a ridiculous labor of love and a very time-consuming thing, again, purely for their own, whereas they refuse to like go get a regular job, which I think is very Zoomer-esque, and I totally get that mentality. But there is just a lot more intergenerational hatred now, because it's easy to kind of pin the enemy on, as enemy of circumstance, and how much are we really just victims of circumstance? Like, how much could you really I guess making it out to an example that I, would argue against is like, well, do I really blame Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg for doing what they're doing? Because if I was in their scenario, I'd do the same thing. It's like at a certain point, I have some, circumstantial sympathy, but on another level, at some point, I don't, because there's, it's like I could position myself to a point where then it's like, yeah, I'm fucking people over, but then like, oh, if you were me and you could do this, like you would do it too. And I think that's also just like a complete cop out excuse for why, like, to do terrible things. It's like, well, if you could own slaves and be a slave owner and make a bunch of money, you would have done it too. It's like, really, that seems like you're just throwing everything. Like, no, I would, vehemently say I won't, because there's things that I could very well do now. I could start a dropshipping business. I could spend every waking moment on Twitter promoting a dropshipping business, and then be like, well, if you had the opportunity, you would have done it too. No, I wouldn't, because I'm not doing it right now, and I won't do it. I refuse to do it. And it's not because it wouldn't make me money or isn't practical or isn't good for the economy. It's because it's morally wrong, and I just refuse to do things that I don't have philosophical alignment with. And I guess I'm sorry I'm not a sociopath and don't have just this empty framework where it's like my goal is to be an automaton and make money and have kids, So I'm sorry. I have to apologize that I have to have philosophical line with my work in order to do anything. And I don't care that will make me poorer or conventionally more lazy than a different generation or whatever. But I refuse to be a victim of circumstance. I refuse to say, well, it's too bad that I was, if you'd have done it, you'd have been in the same situation as me. It's like I know I'm actively doing what I can to change the situation that I'm in. And not necessarily one that puts me in a better financial or social situation or what have you. That's not the point of it. The point of it is, does it philosophically align? Is it a good thing to be doing? Right? It's not like, well, if you had food, if you were surrounded by Twinkies, like I was, you'd be fat too. It's like, well, then I don't buy Twinkies. I will never buy Twinkies. I actively, if I was in an environment where I was surrounded by Twinkies, I would run away. And I would do anything I could to not be in the scenario where I'm surrounded by Twinkies. So like, yeah, you're a victim of circumstance in the fact that you're surrounded by Twinkies all day, but like you have no autonomy to exercise in getting out of the scenario. Really? You're helpless. You're just so helpless. You think to leave the room or just not go to the store when you're starving and stand in the pastry aisle and wonder why you're buying. It's like, I don't feel bad for you at that point. Just like you have to exercise the autonomy you can. I'm not saying everyone has infinite control over their abilities or has no, but like anything else, it's self-control and discipline are things that you have to be aware and develop for yourself. It's not, I don't know. Don't buy the fucking Twinkies. All right, I'm at my time, so I'll wrap it up there. But yeah, thanks for watching. Peace out.